We're going into a world where either computers are going to tell you what to do or you're going to tell computers what to do.
I imagine that sometime in the future, you'll be able to choose the brain state that you want and just activate it.
Wow.
So you would basically, can you imagine having a menu and just being like, all right, I want to be calm right now, and then just calm.
That's the first step of this process. That's the first step of this journey. Understanding that your attention is fragmented, understanding the value of your attention, and then working to build it back up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for dropping in. We really appreciate your time and attention, our two most valuable things.
Time and attention, they are our two most valuable things. And it's funny how attention was something that I never realized was so valuable until like 5 years ago.
Yeah, until it started to be dragged into all these different places until I felt like my attention was kind of like a non-renewable resource. I was like running out of it.
Yeah, it dawned on me when I tried to sit down and read a book about 5 years ago, and I just could not read more than a page without being completely lost in thought.
Yeah, you've talked about that before, and I've tried to think of like what my aha moment was, like when I realized like, oh man, like I need to improve my attention. And honestly, it's every day I get reminded of it now usually when I'm on my phone. And that's what we're gonna talk about that in today's show, how technology and meditation are related, how the technology is kind of affecting us, and why we need meditation now more than ever.
So I was at a business conference over the weekend, last weekend. It was called VCon. I'm a VFriends holder. Shout out to any VFriends in the crowd. And I was listening to the founder of ChatGPT. And it wasn't actually him, but it was someone in the same field, the same AI field. And he said something that was so profound. He said, we're going into a world where either computers are going to tell you what to do or you're going to tell computers what to do.
Wow. I like that a lot.
And I thought that was fascinating because now with the rise of AI, there's a new field called prompt engineering. And this is something that Danny and I have tasted just through one of our friends creating an AI model, where he reached out to us and say, hey, I'm creating this video AI model. What would you ask the model?
And it's like, it's one of those things too, where it's totally new for us. And like, I feel this like aversion I felt this aversion at first to like dive into it. Cause I was like, I don't want to learn like this new thing. And like, I don't want more technology in my life. But the more that we've kind of learned about it and played around with it, the more we've realized that we can use this in order to use technology less, because AI creates all these shortcuts that we can use, especially in the work that Jake and I do. We make all these videos for you guys, and we can use AI to help us with that and actually allow us to spend less time behind the screens by learning this new technology.
The best example I have of how I recently used AI was we're hiring a video editor, a video editing intern, and we came up with the idea, and I wanted to make a Craigslist post. And typically, it's like, okay, I need to write out a first draft and make a Craigslist post. And all I did was open up AI and say, write me a Craigslist post for hiring a video editing intern for my company, Blue Door Media. And it just completely completed a first draft of a Craigslist post. It was so perfect. All I did was edit it and add my special touch. That post was live from idea to creation in 30 minutes.
And I love the utility of that, and I love the time saving of that. The thing that makes me a little nervous sometimes with the AI is like, if we rely, like how much do we end up relying on it? And then how much do the skills that we've cultivated degrade because of it? So like, you can write an article about meditation, or you can type a 2-sentence prompt and have AI write your article. And it's like, I get nervous that, as a writer, as a content creator, as a teacher, all of these things, like where's the line when I start to lose those skills because I'm delegating them to a computer?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, think about learning math in school. And it's like, I can't do complicated math problems off the top of my head. I was actually really good at math in school. But now it's like I just open up the calculator on my phone and I have my phone on me wherever I go. And so I don't really need those math. I need basic math skills, but I don't need those more complex math skills that we were learning in like the 8th grade.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And there's definitely, especially when it comes down to like editing videos or something, like, it's a skill set that you develop, but at a point there's diminishing returns to how much attention you have to sink into doing something relatively simple that a computer can replace and do, where you're not really losing any of those skills. You're not losing like your language arts skills and your ability to communicate and things like that. So it definitely, it's like a fine line between, giving us more ability to utilize our time and attention, but then also kind of like diminishing the skills that we spend so much time building up as humans.
Yeah. I mean, the frightening part is now we need to learn new skills. Like we need to learn how to use the AI and how to implement it into our lives. Otherwise, you fall behind.
And I mean, so we've kind of gone off on this tangent about AI, but it fits perfectly in today's topic where we're talking about meditation and technology. And, we're going to talk about how meditation and technology work together and how they're kind of separately working, and how we actually need meditation and other techniques now more than ever because of how technology affects our attention and our concentration and our ability to communicate, our ability to be empathetic, our ability to be compassionate. Like all of these things are brand new. This is a whole new world that we're living in right now. We've never had the amount of technology we have up to this point ever in the history of mankind, humankind. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, and how that all kind of fits into our world of meditation and breath work and things that we like to talk about.
Yep. And I just wanted to address a question from our TikTok live. And the question is, I have extreme tightness in my lungs when I go to take a breath, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor told me that everything's fine. And so I just wanted to give you just a super simple protocol for this extreme tightness, a simple box breathing exercise. Inhale to the count of 4, suspend your breath to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4, suspend your breath to the count of 4. 5-minute timer. If you type in box breathing exercise, Blue Door Media, you can find a free exercise on the internet. Just wanted to give you that there before we move on.
I'll follow that up real quick, just because this is something that Jake and I has affected us both. And when I went through my period of anxiety in my early 20s, that was the number one thing, was this tightness of chest. And another thing that can help is an exercise we talk about all the time, the physiological sigh, or the sigh of relief. And it can help because when we get anxious or stressed, we have these air sacs in our lungs, and they actually can collapse. And when you do the physiological sigh, it reinflates them, and that can alleviate the tightness in your chest. And it's very simple to double inhale through the nose. The second inhale is kind of forcing it full, and then a long extended exhale, completely emptying out the mouth. You can do that as many times as you would like. I usually tell people at least 5 times, but you can do that up to 5-10 minutes, no problem. Doing it longer than that can sometimes make you feel a little lightheaded, just because we're not used to breathing in that extended pattern, but it's completely safe, and that might be able to help you. Thank you so much for that question.
Yeah, and that is a science-backed protocol. There is a mechanism built into our physiology that it happens naturally. If you think about it, for example, think about solving a problem and just being like your body does it naturally, like after you solve a problem. So you can actually do it before the problem arises. You can actually do these exercises.
If you were to be a fly on the wall in our office, you would just hear sighing all day. We're just constantly sighing, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, but we're sighing all the time at Blue Door.
Yeah, because we're working on screens all the time, and we're getting hyper focused on, creating our content, creating our exercises, and we're zoned in, and then all of a sudden, like, even we forget to breathe.
They call it screen apnea, and it's a real thing. If you kind of are mindful of your breath as you're responding to emails or doing something behind the screen, you'll notice that every once in a while you're taking a deep breath because we have this technology apnea, this screen apnea. So it's very interesting.
Interesting indeed. So on to Danny, what's the next subject that we're talking about here?
So, this whole podcast is about meditation and technology. We've talked a little bit about AI and at the beginning of the podcast, and just talking a little bit about how our attention has been kind of dragged all over the place through the onset of technology we have in our lives. I want to take a few minutes and talk about meditation apps, because a lot of people find them to be like counterintuitive. It's like when you're meditating, you want to be, present with no distraction, but an app obviously lives on your phone. So it's like, how do you find benefit in it? Jake and I have a lot of experience with meditation apps. So I just kind of wanted to go over like what we think about it, and then give you guys like some tips if you are interested in using your phone for meditation. So Jake, why don't you share your experience with like a meditation app, and like how do you find it distracting, or do you find it useful? What do you think?
Well, I use the Sam Harris Waking Up app on a regular basis, and the app is great. We can put a 30-day free trial of the app in our bio. It's absolutely unsponsored. We have no affiliate connection with Sam Harris and the Waking Up app. We're just huge fans of the app because I know Danny and I have gone through the entire introductory course on meditation in the app, which is one of the best introductory courses you can take, in my opinion. I've actually done the introductory course like 3 times over the past 3 or 4 years, just because I want refreshers. Once you get so far along in a practice, you need to bring yourself back as to what are the basics again. And so, there's philosophy in the app. They do theory and practice, and they break it down really nicely. Just this morning, my girlfriend and I, we did a yoga nidra in the Waking Up app to this beautiful Australian Buddhist nun named Jayasara.
I have to echo Jake's sentiments with Waking Up. I'm a gigantic fan, and I will also put a quick plug in for Headspace. Headspace is a great app to use as well. We are affiliated with Headspace, so we do receive commission when people use the link in the show notes to sign up, but we're an affiliate because we believe in it. We love their product, and I think that meditation apps offer a huge benefit because you can read a lot of literature on meditation. If you're really lucky, you can find an in-person teacher, and I think that would be, if you have that opportunity, do that. That's the best. But in my opinion, doing a guided practice, especially at the beginning, is way more beneficial than just trying to figure it out on your own. And that's why I think this innovation of these apps that can help you learn meditation are hugely valuable. The downside is it's on your phone, right? So it's just, you have to be mindful of how you're using your phone. I can't remember where I heard this. Maybe you can remember, Jake, because you might have told me this quote, but it's like every time you pick up your phone, are you using your phone, or is your phone using you? And I think about that all the time. So when I pick up my phone to use one of those meditation apps, I'm using it, right? I'm using it as a tool, as a utility. I go into the app. I don't let myself become distracted. So I think it's just like having that mindset while using the phone for something that's good.
Well, that was one of the earliest reasons why I got into meditation. About 9 years ago, I started posting to social media, and I wanted to make it my job. And then about 3-4 years into that journey, I was just completely addicted to social media. And I knew I was addicted because I would pick up my phone, go on social media, get dragged down a scrolling rabbit hole, and then I would close my phone, turn it off, and then I would open my phone back up unconsciously and go back into the app. And I'd be like, what the heck am I doing? And I would catch myself doing it. And I was just unconsciously clicking into the app. And then whenever I had a red notification, I would just be dragged to that red notification. Like that red notification was becoming more important than what was happening right in front of me. And, fortunately for me, I just became aware of that, because a lot of us aren't aware of that. And just know that if you are aware of that, that's the first step of this process. That's the first step of this journey. Understanding that your attention is fragmented, understanding the value of your attention, and then working to build it back up.
Well said. So just to recap, the way that we view meditation apps, we're big fans of them. We use them every day, but the caveat is you have to use them mindfully and know that when you're, going to your phone, that's what you're using it for. Use it as a tool and don't be dragged in by the notifications like we all are sometimes, but just using it mindfully. And again, if you want to try the Waking Up app, or Headspace, check the show notes of this episode and you can check out both of those as well. There's some special offers in there for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't stress that enough is learning from a teacher in the beginning is super important and going into it with a sense of humor, because once you start hearing all the hearing all the thoughts going through your mind, you have to go into it with a sense of humor, because the human experience really is just sometimes just extremely humorous.
I tell people, when you start a meditation practice, number one, it's not easy. So be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself. And like Jake said, go in, with a sense of humor. That's really helpful. But it's also like you can't go in with any expectation, because it's such a vastly different experience than almost anything else we do in life. You can't compare it to anything. And, I've had a lot of my friends who sit down to meditate and they try it once and they're like, oh, my mind was going crazy and I just couldn't do it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's, that happens to all of us. Like Jake and I meditate every day for years. We still go through that. It's just you get to a point where you become used to it and you just go, okay, the mind's gonna bing, 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 like jump around for a little bit, like a jumping bean. That's why they call it the monkey mind. It's jumping around like a monkey, but eventually it will settle down, and then you're able to gain those insights or cultivate that compassion or concentration, whatever is your intention going in. So it's important not to have any expectations. Very important to have an intention.
Yeah, that's right. Because what happens is when you set an intention, let's say your intention is to cultivate a peace of mind. And if you want to cultivate a peace of mind, often your mind follows your body. So for example, if you want to cultivate a peace of mind, a still mind, what you want to do in your meditation practice is you want to still your body. You want to do this in such a way where you don't move, but you consciously relax your body at the same time. So you're staying still, but you're consciously relaxing. And you'll notice that when you're able to still your body, it takes a few minutes, your mind will follow.
And I just want to give everyone who's maybe hopping into this conversation midway. We're talking about meditation and technology, and we've shared our personal experiences using mindfulness apps. We talked a little bit about AI at the beginning, and I think that's something we're going to come back to at the end of the podcast when we talk about the future of meditation, which is going to be a really interesting part. So I want to talk a little bit now about some of the wearable technologies that are coming out. So this is really cutting edge stuff. A lot of this stuff is brand new, and Jake and I have been exposed to a little bit of it. We're fortunate to have partnered with a couple of these companies early, and so we've gotten to test some of this equipment, and it's really interesting combining like a wearable technology with a meditation practice, because meditation is thousands of years old and you don't need any of these technologies to meditate. But what's interesting is that we now have access to them, and they're kind of unlocking some new possibilities with meditation and allowing us to gain more information and insight into like our biometrics, the way our brain works, the way our bodies work. And I find it really fascinating. But again, just like the AI, I'm a little hesitant to use some of this stuff. I have this like aversion feeling towards it because it feels so wrong to combine wearable technology and my very important practice of meditation. What do you think about mixing that stuff?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a paradox because, the purpose of meditation is to stay present and with an open mind. And when you wear the technology, you are connecting it to your phone and you're collecting data on the present moment, which you're going to go back to and look at the data, and then you're going to like inherently judge that moment, which is like the opposite of, a meditative mindset. A meditative mindset is an open, loving awareness to whatever it is that's happening, whether it's an expansion of joy or a contraction of anger, whatever it is. And so it's a bit of a paradox. It's tough for me. Like, these companies have been sending us the products, and like it takes a while for me to just open the products because I'm like, I don't want to do this. I know it's good for me, and I know it will provide helpful data, and especially being a sort of, quote unquote influencer in the space, because we do advocate for breath work and meditation. I do want to record my data so I can show people the actual proof rather than just hearing my opinions on it. And so, that's, I'm torn. It's like anything, anything new. It's a little bit scary, but it's also, a little bit exciting.
I feel the same way, and I think that I'm a little optimistic about some of these products because I think our ultimate goal is to get people to meditate, right? At a baseline. That's what we pride ourselves on doing, is getting people to meditate, to do breath work, to try these exercises. And I think some of these wearable technologies will influence more people to try the practice because people are used to technology. They're used to wearable stuff like that. Ultimately that will help us with our goal, which is to get people to meditate. So again, just like Jake said, it's kind of a paradox. Let's give a little bit of information on the things that we're affiliated with and that we have access to, and we can give you guys some cool deals on. So one of them is called the Apollo Neuro Wearable. It's a bracelet that you wear, and it gives off these low frequency sounds that you feel as vibrations. So it sits on your wrist and it gently pulsates. And it hooks up to an app, and you can like check which mood you want. Like, do you want to be energized? Do you want to be relaxed? Whatever. And then it will gently pulse. And I really like the Apollo Neuro Wearable. We are affiliated with them. Shout out to Apollo. You can get a nice sweet discount if you visit the show notes. But again, it's not a product that is necessarily like helping you meditate, but it can help you kind of control how you feel. So I've seen a lot of people on our TikTok and on our Instagram today talking about anxiety, talking about stress. This product helps me with my anxiety. So I think there's immense value in that. And it's like, how much do I really want technology to be encroaching on my meditation practice and vice versa? It's a paradox.
Yeah, and I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't used mine that much, just because I don't wear any jewelry or anything. I'm not like, no tattoos, low maintenance. I'm Lebanese, so I'm already hairy enough, and I need to maintain that. And so I haven't worn mine that much. But there is a clip-on that I am excited to use, and it has been sitting on my desk, and I am going to use it because it comes with a watch type wearable that you can put around the wrist, or you can put around your ankle, which sort of looks like an ankle bracelet when you put it around your ankle. So probably want to go with the wrist. But there is a clip that goes on the shirt, and I always clip pens and everything to my shirt, so I can totally see myself using the clip. So in a future show, I will have more feedback on the Apollo Neuro Wearable.
If you want more information on that, check the show notes. We have a whole write-up, and you can get a sweet discount and help support our podcast, which is awesome. We would appreciate that. Really quickly, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but we did just recently partner with a company called Muse, and they make a headband that you wear while you meditate that actually measures your brain waves and also your heart rate and your breathing rate. Now, full disclosure, we have not had a lot of time to use this. We just received it in the mail. I've only done one meditation session with it, but I like it. And I think that I'm going to find a way to incorporate in my practice. But like I said, we just haven't had enough time. If you want to check that out, get some more information, and get a sweet discount as well, that link will be in the show notes for you as well. But for now, Jake and I tend to just use the phone as our main technology integration for our meditation practice. But who knows what the future will hold.
Yeah, and I used Danny's Muse one time, and I did a yoga nidra with it. Huge fan of the yoga nidras. I just historically have never been a great sleeper. I have a lot of energy. And And since I learned how to meditate, oftentimes I go to sleep and I'm just like meditating for the night. Like I'm a very light sleeper. And so I practice, yoga nidras throughout the day where I'll do an exercise or something, and then I'll just lay down and just breathe for 20 minutes. And I did wear the Muse, and I have to say it was comfortable around my head. I have a bit smaller head than Danny. I know Danny needs like a bigger headband than the one that comes with the Muse.
I have a huge head.
And then, and he's got a lot of hair. So I did use the Muse, and it was super comfortable for my head. And it did record my brain waves, but I need to use it more to compare where my brain waves were, because I've only used it once. And so I'm excited to see how my brain works over time.
Yeah, we'll have some videos coming out in the next few months about the Muse, talking about our experience with it, talking about how to use it, and still offering you guys some sweet discounts and chances to support our show and our pages, which we really appreciate. So I want to use that as a segue to talk about our next topic, which is kind of this like ethical consideration. Like, how much should we rely on technology when it comes to meditation? And how can we maintain that balance? So I'll speak to this for a minute, and then let's hear what Jake has to say. But so I think that, like I said, we like the apps. We love using Waking Up. We love using Headspace. Those are great apps. But I also want to have a non-reliance practice. So I also want to be practicing without guidance, without any technology. So for me, I tend to find that in the morning, I love a guided meditation, even in the afternoon if I need one as well. But then in the evening, I like to just take some time and follow the breath. Just do a very basic, mindfulness meditation where I'm following my breath, redirecting the attention back to the breath when it wanders. And for me, that helps maintain that balance. So I'm not completely relying on technology for my meditation practice. If I were to end up on a deserted island tomorrow, I would still be able to meditate every day comfortably, but I would still miss, the voices that I've become accustomed to in my guidance. So I think it's important to draw a balance.
Yeah. So can you just repeat the specific question, the way you phrased that?
So I think I was talking about how I'm nervous to create a over-reliance on technology for meditation. Mm-hmm. So how do you find balance in technology and meditation specifically so that you're not over-relying on it?
Right. So I guess the way that I use technology to meditate is if I'm meditating with a friend, it's really nice to use an app. Mm-hmm. Like when Danny and I meditate together, we always use an app, mm-hmm. and that's great. When I meditate with my girlfriend, we use an app. When I am practicing alone, typically I'm not using any technology. And that's a relatively new thing. Like in the first couple of years, I'd always use a guide.
Same.
But over the last couple of years, where I've gotten more into just the patterns have started to repeat themselves. And so I know the things that I need to do in order to have a good meditation practice. And I can kind of gauge where my breath is and where my mindfulness level is. And it's really all based on the levels of mental chatter that's going on in my head, the feelings of emotions that I'm having, my overall energy levels, and how well I slept. So, for example, if I wake up in the morning and I'm beautifully rested, then what I want to do is I want to get super still and I want to observe the coming and going of my breath and just be the observer of my thoughts, because it acts as a really good way to just reflect and allow myself to just get grounded into the moment so I can just go throughout the day just super calm and super alert. But let's say if I wake up and I didn't get that much rest, I'm going to do a rhythmic breathing exercise where my inhales are a little bit longer than my exhales, because that's going to give me energy. That's going to oxygenate my body, and that's going to kind of wake me up. I'll set the intention that I want to create a more alert mindset. And so I'll actually do a rhythmic breathing exercise to kind of energize my body that way. And then at the end of the day, oftentimes I don't want my phone near me. I don't bring my phone into the bedroom. I usually stop looking at my phone a couple hours before bed. My nightly routine is I like to watch a good movie. I don't want to know what other people are doing at night. So I definitely, don't want to look at social media and stuff. And so if I need to practice an exercise, so let's say I'm not that tired and I'll do an exercise like cyclic sighing, where I'll breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth in a rhythmic pattern. And I'll do that, 30 times or so. And that will really calm me down. I'll feel nice and relaxed, nice tingly feelings and tingly sensations. And so those are just a couple examples of how I use breath work and meditation.
That's good advice too. So if you're starting meditation and you're using an app, but you kind of want to, move away from it, try working with the breath, like Jake was saying. So there's all different meditations you can do just focusing on the breath. Another really good external sensation that you can focus on is what you can hear. So I really like in the morning listening to like the birds or like the wind. My neighbor has a wind chime that's always kind of going. And so like tuning into what you can hear or what you can see, those are really good ways to kind of reduce the reliance on technology in your meditation practice.
So Danny, we have a question live here on TikTok that I want to address. They asked, do you notice any improvements in any area of your daily life since you started meditation? And one thing, the biggest thing in my life is, okay, so I still get angry, I still get upset, I still get sad, I still have all the same emotions that everyone has. But one of the main things in my life that I've noticed since I started meditating is I'm able to let go of that anger so much faster. I'm able to let go of that sadness so much faster. Because a lot of the times, like when you get carried away in anger, you just want to act. And the first thing that meditation teaches you is just, okay, observe what's happening and be calm and be alert. And a lot of times when you're angry, let's say someone says something that makes you upset. You're upset in the moment, but then you replay that thing, that phrase over and over and over and over again in your mind, and it continuously makes you angry again. Now, when you approach your life in a meditative state, you can actually look at that, which one of the first things that we said earlier, with a sense of humor, where you're like, okay, why am I continually replaying this thing in my head that I don't care about, that I don't want to hear anymore in my head? Like there's a little bit of comedy to that. Like if someone's watching above, they're like, all right, Jake just got stuck with that phrase again. Like there's a little bit of comedy. Like, so it taught me how to kind of detach myself from those thoughts, from my thoughts, because the reality of the situation is you don't really create all of your thoughts. You can manipulate your thoughts and there's exercises that you can do. That's why gratitude works, because when you start to write things down that you're grateful for, you're kind of manipulating your thoughts and you're creating a new direction for your thoughts, because what you repeat, you remember. And so, that's probably the main takeaway. Danny, what would you say? How has meditation changed your daily life?
I definitely agree with what you're saying about Sam Harris calls that the half-life of the emotions. He always uses that phrase. So like the half-life of my emotions is much shorter. I'm frustrated for a shorter amount of time. If I spill my coffee, I'm still mad. I'm still upset. It lasts for less than half of how long it used to last. So I definitely agree with that. I think for me personally, the thing I noticed the most in my daily life through my meditation practice that has changed is noticing when I am absorbed by a thought. So noticing when I'm not being mindful, when I'm not present. I'm constantly popping out of my thoughts. Like when I'm walking my dog, and I notice very quickly when I'm when I've been dragged into a memory or a projection of the future. I'm constantly thinking about the future and storytelling and, projecting what's going to happen. Where am I going to park when I go to this place later? Like that's just how my brain works. But through my meditation practice, now notice very quickly when that happens, and I can just notice it for what it is, or just another thought, and just redirect my attention to the present moment, and then that has increased my levels of happiness, my levels of satisfaction. I'm never bored because I can just there's so much happening right in front of you. So that's what I've noticed is my ability to recognize when I'm not being mindful or present, and then redirect to become mindful or present.
Excellent. So there's another question that came in on TikTok. What's your thoughts on transcendental meditation? So just to be clear, I haven't gone through a formal transcendental meditation training, but I do understand mantras, and I have worked with mantras, and it's all kind of based on the same thing. And so my favorite form of transcendental meditation is not labeled technically as transcendental meditation, but it comes from one of the great meditation teachers, Ram Dass. And one exercise that Ram Dass taught is using mantras. And the mantra that he uses is, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. And so that's a mantra that I've adopted in my life. And so sometimes it's really nice using this mantra, repeating this mantra when my mind is going crazy, because there's different voices in my head at all times. And a lot of people can recognize this, where there's the angel and there's the devil and then there's the crowd, saying all these things. And like, that's my head at all times. Like, think about shower thoughts. Like, there's one person telling you you're the best, and then there's one person telling you you're the worst, and then there's so-and-so's voice telling you something else that you're remembering, and then you're remembering something from your childhood, and like there's all these streams and voices coming through, and they connect with emotions, and something makes you angry and you feel your jaw contract, and something makes you happy and you feel your stomach expand, and like there's all these things happening. And so I like to use mantras when this is just becoming overwhelming, because when you set an intention that you want to be loving awareness, then when you tell yourself you love yourself, and then when you repeat it over and over again, and you actually start to feel that self-love, that's the alignment that happens. That's the coherence. There's tests going on this that happen with this. Like, your brain literally starts to light up when your mind comes into coherence, and the connections start to reinforce. And so my experience with transcendental meditation is more along the lines of using mantras. And what I'll do is I'll just sit down and I'll breathe and I'll just repeat in with the voice in my mind, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness, until all those other voices just start to calm down, until you start to create a little bit of space in between your thoughts. And then I'll just let the mantra go and I'll just exist.
Yeah, I feel the same way about transcendental meditation. I've practiced mantra meditations, which that's what transcendental meditation is. Transcendental meditation, or TM as they brand it, it's kind of like, it kind of feels culty, and like there's a lot of money in it. Like, you can spend a lot of money getting a transcendental meditation teacher. It's just not necessary, in my opinion. Like, mantra meditations are great, and you can practice them 100% for free. You don't need someone, you don't need to pay someone to give you your phrase to repeat for you. If you're interested in doing something like that, sure, go ahead. But I think that everyone can practice mantra meditation on their own, and it's a really powerful meditation, because instead of using something like the breath or what you hear as an anchor in the present moment, you're using an actual phrase, and that phrase helps anchor the mind in the present moment. It also gives the mind something to do. So you're able to kind of busy the thinking mind, or the monkey mind, with that phrase, while that creates expansiveness in your consciousness, where you're actually able to connect with what's happening right now in the present moment. So I think that practicing a mantra meditation is hugely beneficial, and there's a bunch of resources, free resources out there, where you can check out some mantras and try one on your own.
Danny, it looks like you just had a question come in from Instagram.
Jack said she was referring to, when we were talking about our emotions, she said that her anger scares me, my adrenaline or my anxiety takes over, and anything goes. It gets pretty scary. And yeah, it is. We can easily become absorbed by those emotions, and meditation can really, really help with this. So I know I've talked with Jack before. She comes to all my lives. Shout out to Jack. thank you so much for coming. But yeah, it's a scary thing when we kind of lose control, and meditation can really help us reduce the length of those, emotional outbursts and just gain better control overall.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was, I forget the woman's name, but she's like a renowned scientist at Stanford University, and she studies stress. And she made it very clear that our thoughts are the number one indicator of stress. And so that's just something to become aware of. So first you become aware of that, and then something else to become aware of is that you don't create all your thoughts. And so going at it with a sense of equanimity, where it doesn't matter what my thoughts are saying today, whether they're good or bad, I'm just going to be right in the middle of that. And then the more you practice this, it will start to reinforce this sense of equanimity that you can carry with you throughout your life.
Thanks so much for everyone who's joining us on either Instagram or TikTok for the questions. We really appreciate you. Jake, I want to get to this last topic because I think it's going to be really interesting. I want to spend a few minutes talking about future trends in the meditation space. So like, what does meditation look like in 20, 30, 100 years? Like what does it look like when we have AI involved in teaching us meditation? What does it look like when we have brain computer interfaces like neural links going on? Like what is your wildest imagination of what that looks like?
Well, I do love this question. So first of all, we all have our own computer in our pocket. If you would have told me that 20 years ago, I would say, what the heck are you talking about? I don't even use my computer in my house. I don't want a computer in my pocket. And so we all have smartphones and computers in our pocket. And we all use Google or some type of Safari search engine, and we ask it questions all day long. Now, with the invention of AI, I believe that we're all going to have an AI model in our pocket. And this is going to simplify the things for us. See, we use metaphors in our everyday life to simplify things. If someone says, look up, you look up. You're using the up as a metaphor because depending on where you are, up is different. And so there's these standardized metaphors that up just happens to be above your eyes. But that's still a metaphor of how you go about life. If you were to question what you mean by up, you would be the most annoying person to talk to in the world, and you'd have a very difficult time navigating anywhere if you were to not use the metaphors up as just like, okay, up is relative to me right now above my eyes or whatever. So we're going to be using, because we're getting bombarded with notifications and all this stuff and all this stress, we're going to have our own personal AI model. And that AI model is going to be trained with a meditation technique, a meditation practice that you choose. And so it's going to be up to you to train your AI model that's going to remind you to be present. That's going to remind you to focus on your breath. The Apollo Neuro wearable that we were talking about has a little, what it does is it gently vibrates to remind you to be present. We're all going to have that AI model that reminds us to be present, that reminds us to do whatever it is that we need to do. And so that's where I see everything going. Is I see meditation is going to be just as big, I think even bigger than the fitness industry. I think everyone is going to have a subscription to some type of meditation service, and it's going to be integrated with some type of AI model. And that's all going to be integrated in our lives because we're getting bombarded by notifications and media, and it's nonstop. And we know that stress is the number one killer. Stress is the number one cause of disease. And I'm like, I would love to see data points on this. This is something that a lot of leading scientists are talking about, where stress is literally, if thoughts can make you sick, thoughts can actually help improve your life too. And so to have this meditation practice in your life to help handle all of the media and everything, I think is going to be so important.
I love that. And I'm so while you were describing that, I was imagining in my mind, like, what's it going to look like? Like, is it going to be like a little hologram AI that comes up and it's just like in a lotus position? And like, so that's what I was picturing as you were talking about that. Very interesting to imagine. So I'm going to take it a little bit further into the future. I've been thinking about these like brain implants. So for those of you that don't know, there are companies testing this stuff right now. One of them is called the Neuralink, and it's basically a computer interface that gets implanted into your brain, which allows you to instantaneously connect with the internet and the wealth of human knowledge. So basically, if you, instead of, going on your computer, looking something up on Google, you would be able to think what you would want it to look up, and the answer would come to you on some visual interface, or I'm not really sure. But so imagining that when we have neural implants, so computers implanted in our brain, I imagine that sometime in the future, you'll be able to choose the brain state that you want and just activate it.
Wow.
So you would basically, can you imagine having a menu and just being like, all right, I want to be calm right now. And then just calm. And I don't necessarily think that it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I'm totally speculating, but I think that we will get there. We will get to the point where we're able to stimulate the brain and induce whatever state we want. So, if you want to be concentrated, boom, plug it right in. Or maybe your AI, you just say, hey, I want to be concentrated, and then concentrated. So the way that this would relate to meditation is if you wanted to drop in to that meditative state, I really believe at some point in the future, I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime, but you'll be able to actually do that, digitally. Just be boom, hit a button, go into a meditative state. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just what I think will end up happening.
I have to say, one of the first things that caught our attention. Do you remember a couple years ago, Danny, when we heard the phrase, "The breath is the remote control to the mind"?
Yes.
So that just takes me back to that phrase and how powerful that is, because if you do breathe in a certain way, you actually can put yourself in a certain state of mind. We talk about this all the time with one of our friends and mentors, Joshua Townshend, and that's a very well articulated, Danny.
It's going to be interesting, folks, regardless of, where you are in your life's journey. The amount of technology that's coming out is exponentially increasing. The amount of attention that we have is stagnant. It's not increasing, right? So it's so important for us to guard our attention, to improve the quality of our minds, and to boost our concentration in order to combat this onset of technology and live a present and fulfilling life, because that's the goal.
That is the goal. I just want to give Penny Power a shout out on TikTok. Thank you for all the love and the gifts.
We really appreciate that. We appreciate everyone joining us on Instagram, everyone joining us on TikTok, everyone listening to this as a podcast, watching us on YouTube, wherever you are. We thank you guys very much for joining us for this conversation. We have many more conversations about this stuff coming in the future. But for now, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Thank you, everyone.
We will see you next time.